Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, Negros Oriental Representative Arnie Teves is designated as a terrorist, but the Justice Department spokesperson insists he is not yet deemed a fugitive. The embattled lawmaker plans to appeal the terrorist designation. And later, a House panel weighs in on the implications of the terror tag on the lawmaker. Teves' lawyer Ferdinand Topacio and Justice Department spokesperson Mico Clavano join us in the program. After Negros Oriental Representative Arnie Teves was designated as terrorist by the Terrorism Council, the Justice Department spokesperson was quick to clarify he is not yet deemed a fugitive.
He is not considered a fugitive, as this is separate and distinct from a criminal action. It is only when you are issued a warrant of arrest that you become a fugitive.
Gusto ko lang sanang
Congressman Teves plans to challenge the Anti-Terrorism Council's ruling. He maintained that allegations that he fostered an atmosphere of fear through killings and harassment in Negros Oriental are unfounded. He also accused the Marcos administration of political persecution.
Yung sa kapatid ko, not surprised a little bit, but alam kong idadamay nila lahat ng kahit mga hindi dapat, dahil even my tagging as terrorist, alam ko na namang mangyayari yun dahil desperate move yun. Yeah, of course, gagamitin nila lahat ng kaya nilang gawin. Dahil other than meron silang minamano, may interest sila sa distrito.
And let's go straight to the source of the story. We have here live on the studio the lawyer of Congressman Arnie Teves, Attorney Ferdinand Topacio. Attorney, always thank you for
Yes,
being
always
here.
a pleasure
It's
and
an
an
easier
honor.
conversation kapag magkaharap po tayo, walang delay. Okay, now that your client has been designated as a terrorist by the Anti-Terrorism Council, what's the next move for your client?
Well, first of all, I'm happy to be in the same program as Attorney Clavano because, I wanted to ask him what's up with the DOJ because consistently his boss has been saying from day one that my client is a fugitive. Now here comes a spokesman saying he's not yet a fugitive. So I'm compelled to ask the immortal question, ano ba talaga kuya? Anyway, as to your question...
what's next?
Yes, what's next is that, well, actually, this did not come unexpectedly. We've been, well, the secretary has been saying, even at the start of the investigation, that he will be working to have my client and others tagged as terrorists. So we already have our options, but at this point, we would like to keep our cards close to our chest. My name is not Jesus Crispin. I do not telegraph my punches.
But you did tell me yesterday, and I did report what you said, that you plan to question this before the Supreme Court.
Yes,
I can't take that back.
Yes, of course. Well, that was just between you and me.
No. I said I was going to use it.
I was kidding.
Okay,
yes,
so sinabi niyo
I
po
could never
kahapon
resist you, so my fault.
You'll question it before the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court or any other judicial forum that may be appropriate.
But is there a possibility of filing an MR with the ATC?
No, I don't think there is. It would be futile because those people have already made up their minds. That's number one. Number two, the people who compose the ATC are adjuncts of the executive. And, it would appear that the present administration has already prejudged the case. I am privy to some information that long before any investigation was even started, the executive has made up his mind as to the guilt of my client. So, since these people are qualified political agents of the president, then there is it would be futile.
It's an exercise.
It would be unavailing to appeal to these people to reverse themselves. It's not going to happen.
Attorney, you were saying that even before the investigation began, that this administration was already was already convinced
Yes.
that Congressman Arnie Teves was behind the killing, even before the investigation
Yes,
began.
and I have personally witnessed this. I am privy to some information. Actually, I am now, this is the first time I'm going to say this, but I am weighing my options because I had promised these people that I have spoken to long before that I would keep that conversation in the strictest confidence. But I had already executed an affidavit summarizing and outlining that conversation, and now I'm torn between my oath to keep it under wraps and my duties as a lawyer and as the lawyer of Congressman Teves and as an officer of the court as to whether or not to reveal these conversations.
Can you give us, I know you can't give us exactly what you should talk about or what was talked about with you, between you and your sources, no?
I will
But what
give,
is the
I'm sorry.
overview?
Well, the overview is that people in the executive have already made up their minds. They have already judged him as guilty. That is why I had informed my client, without revealing confidences, that he better be ready for the entire machinery of government to be arrayed against him in this investigation. That is why we have been proceeding accordingly under the premise that we have very little chance in the executive department. That means the DOJ, the DILG, or any other agency that falls under the executive branch.
I hope you don't mind my saying this, but wasn't that somehow the obvious with the Department of Justice already saying that he's the alleged mastermind, that during the press conference between the DOJ and the DILG, Secretary Benhur Abalos was there, hindi ba pinakita na po yung mga doon sa bahay ni Degamo, yung lumusog doon, pinangalanan na po yung mga tao doon. I mean, wasn't that?
Yes, Ed, but you'd be surprised at how much deeper and wider this goes.
So there is a motive. You're saying that they want to link your client to the Degamo killing?
I
Is
do not
that
know of
so?
their motives. They have not told me. I have not asked out of discretion and respect. But what I know factually is that they are already decided on this course of action.
Okay. So what courts are you looking at to possibly file, to delist Congressman Arnie Teves as a terrorist? RTC ho ba yan?
Because,
Pwede ba
well,
yun?
every court
CA?
has certiorari jurisdiction, actually, from the second level courts above. So we are carefully weighing our options. We are also trying to reach out to the lawyers of the others.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes what stops us from reaching out to these lawyers might be accusations of collusion. But in this case, since we are in the same boat, so to speak, I don't think there's anything wrong with coordinating with the others who have also been tagged as terrorists by the ATC.
Sir, sorry, when you say second level up, what does that mean? sa
The
korte?
regional trial courts, the Court of Appeals, and
Pataas.
the Supreme Court.
All right, so those are the possible places or where you can file this motion for reconsideration. Compelling evidence. Part of the that came out yesterday was that, I'm just summarizing it, sir, based on facts and evidence gathered, several killings, harassments occurred in the province to intimidate the general public, such as, but it's not isolated to the killing of the death and the murder of Governor Degamo and 9 others. Again, this is not an isolated case. Sir, I guess, how do you reconcile this, especially with the hearings on in the Senate, rather, na dumating po yung medyo marami-rami din pong mga supposed to be sources pointing to, you know, this violence, this threat, this, hindi naman po, ewan ko kung ginamit nila yung terrorism dito po sa probinsya.
Well, we were not able to participate there because we were barred. But aside from the fact that we were barred, the Supreme Court has already said that accusation is not synonymous with guilt. You know, it's easy to accuse. It's easy to point fingers, but proving it is another thing. And that is why I think that they resorted to the Anti-Terrorism Act as an act of desperation, because the public is already witnessing how the cases of the government are collapsing at the DOJ. In the Degamo investigation, all of the key witnesses have recanted. In the 2019 case, alleged murders, a series of murders, there is only one witness that they can come up with to point to Congressman Teves and under existing doctrines of the Supreme Court, that is not enough. That is sorely lacking.
And attorney, when you talk about this recantation, Attorney Mico Clavano, the spokesperson of the DOJ, was already saying that it is suspect that all 10 recanted all in a week's time. It becomes, it's tantamount to a conspiracy.
Well, first of all, he has to prove that. Attorney Clavano, those are big words. You better be ready to prove them. Otherwise, you are nothing but a bluster and a bluff. Number two, it is no coincidence because it is only at that time, through our relentless and continuous ranting and raving about the violation of the rights of these accused, that they were able to get counsel of their choice. So, it would be natural for people arrested for a crime to be able to open up only with counsels of their own choice who enjoy their full trust and confidence rather than lawyers supplied by the persons who have themselves arrested them.
All right. We just need to take a very short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our source today, the lawyer of Congressman Arnie Teves, Attorney Ferdinand Topacio. So just quickly now, I want to zero in on these 10 who have recanted. Okay, so una sinabi na umamin sila na may kinalaman sila. Isa-isa sila, mula nung pumasok itong Marvin Miranda, isa-isa silang nag-recant. So again, I just want to go back dun sa sinasabi na it's tantamount to a conspiracy and it becomes a suspect. Don't you think that is unusual that all of a sudden, itong 10 na to, I mean, what is the explanation? Bakit itong 10 na to ay bigla na lang nag-recant?
That was because that was the time that we were able to secure counsels of their own choice. Yung conspiracy sinasabi nitong si Clavano, katang-isip lang niya yan eh. Maraming katang-isip yung DOJ at saka itong si Clavano. So, and these recantations are natural. For a person to be able to recant their testimonies at the first instance. The first set of testimonies were uncounseled and there were allegations of threats and intimidation as well as actual violence, and these allegations have reached the Commission on Human Rights.
I do remember though that recantations are not often looked positively by the court, hindi ho ba?
Well, we have to distinguish, Ma'am Pinky. If you submit your statement in court and then you are examined on the witness stand and you are cross-examined by the defense and then the case is already submitted for resolution and then you recant, of course, the courts will not entertain that. That is subject to suspicion because you have gone through the entire gamut of the proceedings. Why did you not recant at the earliest opportunity? We have to distinguish this with the current recantations, which are extrajudicial, which are made early on and before there was even
counsel of their choice.
Counsel of their choice,
okay.
And even before there were court proceedings.
All right. So now let's talk about the possible implications of this. Pwede ba siyang arestuhin ngayon, sir?
Pwede.
Si Congressman Arnie Teves, kung mahanap siya.
Pwede. Nagpahayag na nga. I was watching CNN at the guest lounge and the police had already expressed the intent, their readiness to arrest those na nakatag. Pero that should be with the authority of the ATC. But the funny thing about that statement is most of these people are already in detention.
Yeah.
So who are they going to arrest?
Yung,
si Pride ang kawawa dyan.
Si Henry Pride ang wala. But all the other rest are currently being detained. Yeah.
So
no, but your client, obviously.
Yeah, but then he is beyond the jurisdiction, I think, of the court.
Yeah, so the question is, can he be arrested now that he's designated as a terrorist, or does this need an act, must this be ordered by a court?
Well, he can be ordered arrested, but we have to remember that if he is in a foreign jurisdiction, the jurisdiction, the power of any agency of our government to effect arrest is confined within the territorial limits of the Philippines. There will have to be coordination with whatever foreign government or state that he's in, and this entails some complicated diplomatic maneuvers.
But sabihin po natin magkaroon na ng resolution ang panel of prosecutors and finds probable cause. pwede na ho ba siyang arestuhin?
Well,
Or the same applies?
Well, yes, if there is probable cause, an information is filed, and the court agrees that there is probable cause to hold him for trial, then a warrant of arrest will issue in due course. But again, that warrant will only be effective within the territory of the Philippines, and then there will still have to be coordination with foreign jurisdictions and
All right.
foreign authorities.
So he needs to be in a place that he cannot be extradited. Ganun ho ba yun?
Extradited, when extradition is a tricky thing. Although you are in a place with no extradition treaty, you may still request extradition actually under international law. It's just that it's not automatic.
Okay.
In contradistinction with the situation that you have a treaty with a country.
Got it. Very quickly, sir. AMLAC resolution. This just came out that it's a notice of AMLAC resolution, Series 2023, basically saying it directed already the freezing without delay the property, funds, and related accounts controlled by designated terrorists. Would you know? Have his assets been frozen?
No, actually, we have not even yet been furnished with an official copy of the resolution of the ATC. Buti pa nga yung Committee on Ethics, meron na sila. Hindi naman sila directly involved dito.
Okay. But did he make arrangements already? Because this was already being discussed in the past na gusto po siyang i-designate na terrorist. Did Congressman Arnie Teves secure his assets already?
I do not know. I do not manage the assets
But
of
you're his lawyer.
Congressman
Did you?
Teves. Oh. Well, I really do not know.
Hindi, ang tanong, may makukuha pa ho ba sila? May ma-freeze pa ho ba sila? Siguro yun na lang yung tanong,
Well,
sir.
only the AMLC can answer that. They have more powers to find his assets back in the form of that bank deposits, actually, because AMLC is confined to liquid assets, cash, or deposits in the bank.
Did you suggest to him na urong mo na yung mga pag-aari mo, pera mo, ganon?
No, actually, Congressman Teves is a very intelligent man. He's a person who is street smart, so he would know what to do.
All right. Thank you to Congressman Arnie Teves' lawyer, attorney Ferdinand Topacio. Sir, again, thanks for coming to the studio.
Always my
Ingat
pleasure.
po kayo.
Thank you very much.
We'll be
and God
taking a
bless.
short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Pinky Webb. Our source today, Anti-Terrorism Council spokesperson and Justice Assistant Secretary Attorney Mico Clavano. Attorney, welcome to The Source also. Thank you so much for your time. First question na po. Now that Kong Arnie Teves has been designated as a terrorist, can he be arrested?
Well, as of right now, according to the Supreme Court, he is not yet considered a fugitive because a fugitive can only be or includes only those who flee after conviction to avoid punishment, but likewise also after being charged, flees to avoid prosecution. So under this definition, it indicates that the intent to evade is the compelling factor that animates, I guess, one's flight from a particular jurisdiction. And obviously there can only be an intent to evade prosecution or punishment when there is knowledge by the fleeing subject of an already instituted indictment. So the standard there's already an indictment, there's already an information filed in court.
Okay.
As of right now, he is a designated terrorist by the Anti-Terrorism Council. But there's also a preliminary investigation that is going on in several cases against the designee, where he is asked to submit an answer and explain his side. The fact that he will not participate, or will it looks like the indication is that he will not participate, then the panel of prosecutors will have to resolve the case on the basis of the complaint alone.
But, sorry, Attorney, hasn't that been clarified? They did not file a counter affidavit and actually wants the charges or, the accusations and charges, complaint rather, it's not yet a charge, dismissed?
Yes, precisely, Pinky. So the fact that they're resorting to these other remedies already indicates the fact that they are not willing to participate in the preliminary investigation and are not going to submit a counter affidavit. Now, if that happens, then the panel of prosecutors have no choice but to resolve the case only on the complaint or only on the basis of the complaint. And once that's done, more likely, and this has been seen in several cases when no counter affidavit has been filed, that the complaint will be resolved in favor of the filing of the information in court.
So, kailan ho ba mareresolve itong issue with the panel of prosecutors? When will they decide on this?
Well, the timeline is not up to us, I guess, Pinky, to decide. It's up to the panel of prosecutors, and we give them all the leeway to decide and to exercise their discretion in this case. They already have all the evidence they need from the NBI and all the other law enforcement agencies involved. And so they will have to resolve the complaint on that basis.
Okay, so we just need to wait for that, for the panel of prosecutors to determine if there is probable cause or not. Nandun pa lang ho kasi tayo with the camp of Congressman Arnie Teves not wanting to file or refusing to file a counter affidavit. And now he's designated as a terrorist by the Anti-Terrorism Council. Can the ATC issue an arrest order?
Well, actually, Pinky, at this point, the only consequence of a designation, according to the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020, is that his assets will be frozen by the Anti-Money Laundering Council. This is purely preparatory for other remedies that the government can take against the designee. The reason why it's only the freezing of the assets is because this is a purely executive act. The designees are not given the opportunity to be heard at this point. It's an ex parte proceeding. So it would be a deprivation of due process if he were to be arrested without his participation. So actually, the designation is one of the remedies. Another remedy in the Anti-Terrorism Act is proscription.
Right.
And to differentiate the two, designation is just the freezing of the assets. But when it comes to proscription, that's the time that arrest warrants can be issued against the proscribed terrorists.
So
and that has to go through court. It's not just an executive act. The proscription proceedings are actually done in the Court of Appeals.
Okay. Proscription is under the CA. How does this move forward in terms of prescribing these individuals as terrorists? Who takes the necessary steps?
The ATC will file a case for prescription in the CA, no? And but at this point, I just like to emphasize that designation is the only step that the ATC has taken so far, no? Proscription has not yet been undertaken by the ATC, and so
Sorry, sir.
Yes,
And,
Pinky. So the only
may plano ho ba
consequence
for the
of
prescription
this
of these individuals?
No, you can only prescribe groups, terrorist groups. Under the law, individuals cannot be prescribed, only groups can. However, criminal actions for violation of the Anti-Terrorism Act can be instituted against individuals. That's another remedy that the government has.
Sorry, sir. So can the ATC or will the ATC start steps or moves for prescription of the Teves terror group, which the ATC had described this group and named it to be as such?
Well, it's hard to mention the strategies of government now just because it might telegraph the next steps of government. I'm just stating that these are possible remedies and possible next steps that the government may take. That's all on the table. But as to what exactly we're going to do next, that's something that I would respectfully differ on answering. Thank you. But as of right now, there are cases in the DOJ, there are cases in court, and there is this designation as terrorist.
And the designation...
That's the landscape right now.
And the designation carries with it the freezing of the assets. Sir, just there was this report earlier, but I think this was supposed to have been signed about 2 days ago, that basically already, I guess the question is, na-freeze na ho ba yung assets ni Congressman Arnie Teves, his brother Pride Henry Teves, and the rest?
Initial steps have been taken, Pinky. What happens is the Anti-Money Laundering Council will issue what is called a sanctions freeze order, or an SFO, and it directs the banks to freeze all relevant assets of the designees. And they expect a return from the banks reporting which assets or which accounts have been frozen already.
And when do you think you'll be able to get a report on this?
Well, the Anti-Money Laundering Council expected to get returns starting yesterday afternoon until today, I guess for the rest of the week, if assets are found under the names of the designees. And so very soon, and this type of process is meant to be quick, it's meant to be fast, precisely because we want to prevent the dissipation of assets.
Yeah. And when you say fast, what, in a matter of a few days, 1 to 3 days, would that be safe to say?
Yes, Pinky. In fact, as I was talking to some of the representatives from the Anti-Money Laundering Council, they were expecting most of the returns to come in last night.
All right. Anti-Terrorism Council Deputy Spokesperson and Justice Assistant Secretary Attorney Mico Clavano. Sorry, I wish we had more time. We'll try to have a part 2. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.